High atop the Tibetan Plateau, where the air is thin and the winds howl like banshees, lies a frozen battlefield. This is a place where nature's fury meets human conflict, a stark reminder of the harsh realities of geopolitical tensions. This is no ordinary conflict zone, it is a desolate and unforgiving landscape where the silence is only broken by the occasional sound of military maneuvers and the ever-present wind. This is where two nuclear-armed giants, India and China, face off amidst the towering peaks of the Himalayas. The stakes are incredibly high, with both nations unwilling to back down, each asserting their claim over this strategic region. The bone-chilling cold is a constant reminder of the stakes. The soldiers endure extreme conditions, their resolve tested by the relentless cold and the thin air that makes every breath a struggle. Thousands of soldiers stand guard, their breath misting in the frigid air, a testament to the ever-present tension. Each side watches the other with a wary eye, knowing that any misstep could lead to a catastrophic escalation. This is the story of the 38,000 square kilometers of land claimed by both nations, a dispute that has simmered for decades and threatens to boil over. The history of this conflict is long and complex, rooted in colonial-era boundaries and national pride. The Himalayas, once considered an impenetrable natural barrier, have become a flashpoint. The rugged mountains that were once seen as a protective shield are now the very grounds of contention, where soldiers from both sides dig in, prepared for a prolonged standoff. The rugged terrain, crisscrossed by treacherous passes and glacial valleys, bears witness to a long and bitter rivalry. The soldiers navigate these dangerous paths, knowing that the terrain itself can be as deadly as any enemy. Here, amidst the breathtaking beauty of snow-capped peaks and pristine lakes, lies the potential for a conflict that could reshape the geopolitical landscape. The natural beauty of the region stands in stark contrast to the human conflict that threatens to erupt at any moment. This is not just a border dispute. It is a complex and multifaceted conflict, involving issues of national sovereignty, regional influence, and historical grievances. It is a clash of civilizations, a struggle for regional dominance, and a test of global security. The cultural and historical significance of this region adds another layer of complexity to the already tense situation. The outcome will have profound implications for India, for China, and for the world. The international community watches closely, aware that the resolution of this conflict will set a precedent for how such disputes are handled in the future. The stakes are not just regional but global, as the balance of power in Asia hangs in the balance. The roots of this conflict can be traced back to the twilight years of the British Raj. During this period, the British were grappling with the complexities of managing a vast and diverse colony. The subcontinent was a mosaic of cultures, languages, and religions, and the British administration often struggled to maintain control. As the British Empire prepared to withdraw from India, they left behind a legacy of poorly defined borders. The hurried nature of their departure meant that many territorial lines were drawn hastily, without thorough consideration of the ethnic and cultural landscapes they were dividing. The McMahon Line, proposed in 1914 to demarcate the boundary between Tibet and British India, was never formally accepted by China. This line, named after Sir Henry McMahon, was intended to create a clear boundary, but it was fraught with ambiguities and contested claims from the start. This ambiguity laid the groundwork for future disputes. The rugged and remote Himalayan terrain further complicated matters, making it difficult to enforce or even clearly define the borders on the ground. In 1950, China's communist government, fresh from its victory in the Civil War, annexed Tibet. This bold move was part of a broader strategy to consolidate power and expand territorial control. This move sent shockwaves through the region. Tibet, with its unique cultural and religious identity, had long been a buffer state between China and India. Its annexation by China was seen as a direct threat to the balance of power in the region. India, which shared a long and porous border with Tibet, viewed this development with growing alarm. The Indian government, led by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, was particularly concerned about the implications for national security. The annexation of Tibet brought Chinese troops right up to India's doorstep, setting the stage for a protracted standoff. The presence of Chinese military forces so close to Indian territory was a constant source of tension and unease. The two newly independent nations, each with their own aspirations for greatness, now found themselves locked in a territorial dispute with far-reaching consequences. Diplomatic efforts were made to resolve the issues, but mutual distrust and competing national interests often hampered progress. The stage was set for a clash that would redefine their relationship for decades to come. The border disputes between India and China would continue to simmer, occasionally boiling over into open conflict and shaping the geopolitical landscape of the region. Tensions finally erupted in 1962. What began as a series of border skirmishes quickly escalated into a full-blown war. Chinese troops, better equipped and prepared for the harsh Himalayan conditions, launched a swift and decisive offensive. Indian forces, caught off guard and outmatched, struggled to hold their ground. The war lasted for a month and ended in a humiliating defeat for India. Chinese forces penetrated deep into Indian territory, capturing vast swaths of land. The conflict exposed the weaknesses in India's military and political leadership, leaving a deep scar on the national psyche. Although China declared a unilateral ceasefire and withdrew from some of the captured territories, it retained control over the Aksai Chin region. The war had a profound impact on both nations, shaping their strategic outlook and fueling a deep-seated mistrust that persists to this day. Section 4. Aksai Chin. The strategic crossroads. At the heart of the India-China border dispute lies Aksai Chin, a high-altitude desert plateau larger than Switzerland. This vast, barren land with its harsh climate and rugged terrain might seem like an unlikely focal point for international tension. This desolate and sparsely populated region might seem inconsequential at first glance. However, its strategic importance is immense, making it a critical area of interest for both India and China. However, its strategic significance cannot be overstated. The region's location makes it a key military and logistical asset, influencing the balance of power in the region. For China, Aksai Chin provides a vital road link between its restive Xinjiang province and Tibet. This connection is crucial for maintaining control and stability in these regions. This highway, built in the 1950s, allows China to rapidly deploy troops and supplies to its western frontiers. The construction of this road was a strategic move to enhance China's military capabilities in the region. Control over Aksai Chin gives China a strategic advantage in any future conflict with India. The ability to move forces quickly and efficiently across this terrain is a significant military asset. India, on the other hand, views Aksai Chin as an integral part of its territory. The region is not just a piece of land, but a symbol of national sovereignty and pride. The loss of this region in the 1962 war continues to rankle. The memories of that conflict are still fresh in the minds of many, fueling a desire to reclaim the lost territory. India fears that Chinese control over Aksai Chin could embolden Beijing to make further territorial claims. The ongoing border disputes and military standoffs are a constant reminder of the fragile peace in the region. The region has become a symbol of national pride and a testing ground for India's resolve. The strategic importance of Aksai Chin extends beyond its borders, influencing the geopolitical dynamics of South Asia. Section 5. New Millennium, Old Tensions, Galwan, and Beyond. The 21st century has witnessed a resurgence of tensions along the India-China border. Both countries have undertaken massive infrastructure development projects in the disputed areas, including the construction of roads, bridges, and military outposts. These activities have heightened mutual suspicion and increased the risk of accidental clashes. In 2020, the world watched with bated breath as a violent confrontation erupted in the Galwan Valley. The clash, which involved hand-to-hand combat, resulted in the deaths of 20 Indian soldiers and an unknown number of Chinese casualties. It was the deadliest encounter between the two armies in over 4 decades, raising fears of a wider conflict. The Galwan clash served as a stark reminder of the fragility of peace along the disputed border. It also underscored the growing assertiveness of both nations and their willingness to use force to protect their perceived interests. Section 6. A global powder keg. The wider implications. The India-China border dispute is not just a regional issue. It has significant global implications. The two Asian giants are major economic and military powers, and any conflict between them would have far-reaching consequences. A war between India and China would be a disaster for both countries and for the world. It would disrupt global trade, destabilize the region, and could potentially escalate into a nuclear confrontation. The international community has a vested interest in preventing such a scenario. The border dispute also has implications for the balance of power in Asia. A rising China is increasingly challenging India's traditional dominance in the region. The outcome of the border dispute could determine which country emerges as the dominant power in the 21st century. Section 7. The Path Forward: Diplomacy and Dialogue. The only way to resolve the India-China border dispute is through diplomacy and dialogue. Both countries need to engage in sustained and sincere negotiations to find a peaceful and mutually acceptable solution. This will require compromise and a willingness to address each other's legitimate security concerns. Confidence-building measures, such as military de-escalation and increased economic cooperation, can help to reduce tensions and create a more conducive environment for talks. The international community can play a constructive role by encouraging both sides to choose dialogue over confrontation. The stakes are too high for this dispute to be allowed to fester. The future of Asia, and indeed the world, may depend on finding a peaceful resolution.